Welcome, everyone. My name is Giovanni Galvez. I'm VP of Business Development here at Syncwords. And today we're going to talk about remote captioning, how to work from home, how to get your captioning done, how to scale your workforce and your processing, and all things related to the things that everyone is dealing with now, and that is being able to work and get things done from a distance. So let's get things going. The key thing about working remotely is that a lot of processes, especially around broadcast and captioning, they're really not originally designed to be able to do that. You can't really work remotely when things are really set up to work on-prem. So that was a big challenge for us as a company in Syncwords to provide solutions that really enable people to be able to take tools that are cloud-based and work from anywhere as long as people have internet access. And this applies to both live workflows as well as offline uh, post-production workflows. And we'll touch upon all those things. But before we do, let's do a little housekeeping here. First and foremost, this webinar is being closed captioned live. And anyone that's participating can turn on the closed captions that is being generated by a live court reporter right now. In addition to that, if you'd like, you can go to the URL that's listed on the screen, and you can actually watch the closed captions with real-time translation to several different languages on your web browser or your mobile device. Everyone is muted right now. However, please feel free to use the Q&A button on your panel. The Q&A button is going to be reviewed. We can answer questions during the webinar, and also we'll have a proper Q&A session toward the end. If you need any help with connecting to the webinar or if any kind, just send us a chat via the online tools here in Zoom. And away we go. Let's get things going. Syncwords has a lot of different tools, and this is something that people should be aware. We have tools for live captioning as well as offline captioning. And during this webinar, we're going to talk about how these can be leveraged in a remote type workflow. But before we do that, I also want to talk about the different categories of working remotely, right? There are post-production workflows that are more commonplace right now for offline content, pre-recorded videos. There's also live captioning for streaming and TV broadcast. That's a major aspect of working remotely. There is subtitling and translation, right? It's not good enough right now just to broadcast in a single language. We have a global audience, and all the customers and broadcasters, they have global audiences as well. And even local audiences are normally speaking other languages than just English. Um, and of course, there's also transcription for video editing. That is something that is more commonplace now more than ever. Folks, before they finish their edit and get their video captioned, they need to transcribe that video. So say if someone's shooting 10 hours a day, they have to edit that down to a final 1 hour video. They need a transcript of all those 10 hours. And that's really important because that's part of the pre-captioning workflow is what I like to call it. All right, let's get going. Before we start talking about working remotely and talking about cloud-based captioning, let's kind of turn back the hands of time and see how did we get here. And if you've been in the captioning game long enough, you know that this was the standard not too long ago. I'd say about maybe 20 years ago, this was the only way to caption pre-recorded videos for post-productions, right? You literally had to have two tape decks. You had to have a playback tape deck, you had to have a record tape deck. Very expensive tape decks, by the way, especially if you're going to broadcast television, right? It wasn't just VHS decks. And then you had to have hardware encoder. Um, as you're playing back the video, you would then take the caption software with a timecode reader and send the captions to the encoder. So it was very similar to the way the live captioning workflow works today, right? And as time went on, this was the way that captioning was designed to work. It was originally designed to work like this. It was not designed to work the way it works today, which is all file-based, with SCC files, um, with subtitle files, with video formats like MP4 and MOV. None of that existed originally, and it was never designed to work that way. So early on, a very, very smart engineer out of Northern California who I worked with, he came up with a way to basically eliminate for post-production workflows, eliminate the need to have a closed caption encoder. This was around the time when video editing systems were just becoming more commonplace, you know, like Final Cut Pro and Adobe Premiere. It started really taking off. And these video editing systems had two things. They had DVD authoring, and they also had ways to superimpose graphics onto the video. And closed captions were basically a way to just superimpose not the text, but the actual vertical blanking intervals on the top of the video, right? For standard definition workflows. And so he figured out a way with software to basically superimpose those graphics into the video editing timeline. And then he was able to use a capture card, like a Blackmagic card, and then he was able to print a tape. And the tape ended up with closed captions. And that was revolutionary, right? That meant that you didn't have to buy this expensive hardware encoder. You didn't have to go tape to tape. You could literally edit your video, add the captions, print the tape, go to DVD, right? And with DVD, all you needed is to create this 608 file called an SCC file, right? That became really popular and became like the go-to caption file for everyone because it was so popular to do it this way, right? As time went on, the video editing system started being more friendlier to SCC files as well as captioning. You know, we had people like Avid adding more features, Sony Vegas, et cetera, et cetera. And that eliminated the need to go this kind of tape to tape type of workflow. But what it didn't do is it didn't eliminate the need to have to print a tape. So that was the next thing, because printing to tape was absolutely expensive and very costly, and the tape decks are also very expensive, and also you had to maintain them. That wasn't something that would allow anyone to work remotely because these machineries really were expensive, and you had to live in a machine room, not at someone's home, for example. So what came next? A way to eliminate the tape, okay? There was a way that was figured out where you could create the captions with software as user data, right? And then you could embed that user data into video files like MPEG-2, for example. That was the first video file that we could add captions to that, right? And then once you add the captions to the MPEG-2, it was just a matter of using an FTP or some sort of internet way to deliver that video file that was ready to go to the television station, right? It really eliminated having to send a courier with tapes and all sorts of things like that. However, the software, the captioning software, is still very expensive, right? And to be able to do this, right? And so that resulted in a ways like, how do I eliminate that and make it even easier? So now let's fast forward to today. Okay, having a way to completely take that desktop software, that editing software, because you don't need an editing software, you just need a captioning software that can help you create the captions and output that caption file, right? So there's no need for tapes. There's even no need for these really complex video files, because once you deliver the caption file from a platform like Syncwords, that could get sent to a transcoding system, right? And there's several transcoding systems out there, that some of which are already cloud-based. And once you have the video sent there and the caption file, you can then deliver, if you need MPEG-2, you can make that. You can need MXF. If you need something for OTT, for streaming, for YouTube or whatever, that's all possible. And it can all be done now with the cloud. So this is how we got here, right? Back from the original captioning where it was tape to tape, all the way to now where we can have a completely cloud-based workflow, where we don't have to have expensive equipment, expensive software. We can pay as we go, and more importantly, we can scale. We can have our entire organization have access to this, and that's where this comes into play, right? Um, as someone who used to promote and manage software that was on the desktop, that was professional captioning software, I can tell you that numerous times I heard the same thing and the same request, and that is, how can I get my entire workforce to use this if I only have one copy of the software? And the answer was always like, well, buy more copies. And that wasn't cost effective a lot of times, because the software was thousands of dollars, right? And so that made it very difficult to scale. So you get, let's say, a big post-production job, right, with, let's say, 20 episodes on 6 seasons, and you need to caption all of that. Well, does that mean now you have to buy like a desktop software that's very expensive for your entire organization, your entire crew, just so you can scale? That doesn't make sense. So the solution was for Syncwords to create a complete platform for caption authoring, right? Where we would host things on the cloud, where we can administer that, add new users. So let's say if I need 10 new captioners, I could hire those 10 new captioners, and I can immediately deploy a link to them with permissions and with logins, so they can help me get my work done, and we can get it done faster and quicker, right? And this is a way to compete with what's out there right now, because they have unlimited ways to add to their workforce, but everyone has to do the same, right? And if you're an organization, um, you could be a post-production house, you could be a service company, really leveraging the cloud-based workflow, especially today, is going to be like the way forward, right? So no matter where you are, you can just log in. I could be somewhere stuck in the mountains, or I could be at home, or I could be in the office, anywhere I want. All I need is internet access. I can get to my caption project or multiple projects. I can assign them. I can collaborate with different captioners. I can correct their work. And then I can, most importantly, deploy directly to my customer. So the customer can get the caption file quick, and they can start doing the deployment, whether they're going to streaming, VOD, OTT, or broadcast television. They can get their captions done quicker, just because we have this whole platform there for you. The best thing is it doesn't require this upfront cost that an on-prem software requires. Okay, so there's more advantages also to using cloud technology to work remotely for captioning. Okay, it's not just about, okay, everyone has access to caption authoring, right? Um, Certainly there's desktop software out there that's not professional, but at least you can type and add time code. But that's not really what a cloud platform system enables you to do. The cloud platform system lets you do the caption authoring, but there's also other technologies around artificial intelligence, machine translation. There's ways to automatically format a transcript. Let's say if you are asked to say, okay, I have the captions, but I also need an as broadcast script, right? That has interval timing for the speaker or timing for every 3 minutes or 5 minutes or any custom timing like this. I can simply use the automation that's available in the cloud on the cloud platform at Syncwords and create a custom output, right? In whether it's a PDF or doc or an SCC, whatever they need. It's just a simple way as just setting up a setting and then outputting what you need from that system. So you get that versatility, you get that automation, you also get automatic speech recognition. This is a cloud-based technology that's extremely fast, very accurate. It helps you transcribe the video much faster in both English and Spanish. And then, of course, there's the auto timing, which is really, really advanced. And having auto timing on the cloud is a huge advantage over having auto timing on the ground. Let me explain a few reasons why. Number one, auto timing on the ground requires the CPU of the computer that you have. So if you have a slower computer, if you have just one computer, number one, you're kind of locked down to how long that takes. Number two, what if you had 100 different videos, right? I have to basically send one after the other. With a cloud infrastructure, you can get everything done simultaneously, right? I can have that sent and say from this project to that project, I need this script timed to that. And I need that to be converted to an SEC. And I need to then make a custom transcription format like ABS. I can do all that. And within a short amount of time, I have all those ready to go and ready to deploy to the client or whoever needs it. So really, the infrastructure allows that scalability of your workforce, but also allows you to have access to all the key cloud technologies that are available, right? Um, so really, that's where we are. Is right now is we may have desktop softwares that we can take with us home, but that isn't enough. You need power tools that you can scale, that you can deploy to everyone that is there to help you and your team. And you need to give them access to all of these great new modern tools, right? And it doesn't matter whether you're on Mac or on Windows, as long as you have an internet browser, you can access the tools and you can make their edit, you can create the captions, and you can send that finished caption file to wherever you need to go. All right, so that's as far as offline. Let's talk a little bit about live captions and subtitles. Okay, the live workflow is a totally different animal, as you know. There are some things you can do completely cloud-based, and then there's other things that are more broadcast-centric that require still hardware encoder. However, hardware encoders are always something that people connect to remotely, right? It's very rare that you see a broadcast organization where they have in-house captioners. Although there are some that I know of, but for the most part, all the major uh, sports and news live broadcast television, they employ services that do remote captioning, okay? Um, from our perspective, we wanted to diversify. Okay, there's live broadcast captioning, but we wanted to diversify that and give our customers the ability to not only send live captions to live broadcast, but to also send live captions to live streaming and online meetings. And then after the video, was completed, after the live event was done, to archive that live transcript that then can be repurposed, can be changed, can be reviewed, can be sent to be cleaned up for video on demand after the live event is then re-aired. So all of these things are in play because we created a system that can take the same uh, control codes from the captioner and can simultaneously send things out. So for example, I mentioned earlier that this meeting is captioned. You can see the captions now. I could simultaneously send those captions to a live broadcast or a live stream. There's really no limit there because in the cloud, our software encoder is able to take that input and distribute it to different outlets, right, simultaneously. Um, this is more like the typical workflow of live captions. And unlike the typical or original workflow for post-production offline, the live stuff hasn't really changed much, okay? There's still a 608 encoder somewhere in some machine room or truck. And the real-time caption feeder, service provider is going to connect to it, right? And then the output of that caption encoder is going to be sent to either broadcast or streaming, okay? The streaming just passes everything through to the CDN, okay? That's just going to have the video and the captions. It's not really doing anything crazy there. Um, the broadcast is going to take that broadcast and distribute it to cable and satellite and encode that in real time to say an MPEG-2. And that's all happening every day, all day long. When you're watching television from a major network, for example, they're going to use a workflow like this. Okay. So what did we do to add to this so that we can make it easier so that we can work more remotely? Well, the first thing we did, as I mentioned earlier, is we were able to adapt this workflow to online meetings. So when we're sending captions to Zoom or to some other platform like WebEx or to web, like in a URL where you can just see the captions, we don't need the hardware at all. We can eliminate that. And right now, as more and more people are using platforms like Zoom, you see that people are broadcasting from their homes, right? And they're using whatever they have as far as a camera, and now that has to be captioned live. So this is a way to do it, right? You simply have the court reporter or the voice writer connect to our cloud system, and then our cloud system will deploy that. It acts exactly like as if it were a closed caption encoder, and then we can deploy that in real time to several different outlets, okay? The benefit of this is that, let's say you're doing 20 meetings today, right? And some overlap in time. That means I don't have to buy a closed caption encoder for every meeting. In fact, I don't need one at all. So I can scale my live broadcast to these platforms as much as I want because I'm not relying on having to install a piece of hardware, okay? As far as live streaming, it works very similarly. We have a system called Language Sync that we spoke about previously in other webinars. And this system basically also eliminates for live streaming the need to do a hardware encoder, okay? The streaming just happens, goes to the CDN, and then the captioner remotely connects to our cloud, and then that cloud system adds VTT caption to the live stream, okay? And that works really well. It's in production right now. And the beautiful thing about it is because we're bypassing the caption encoder, we're also bypassing the need to go into 608 protocol. So we can stream captions and subtitles in multiple languages, including Asian languages like Chinese and Korean. And we can actually send those simultaneously, right? If we want 40 languages at the same time with real-time translation using our cloud system for machine translation, we can do that and completely bypass the need to do a hardware encoder or anything fancy. It's just all we need is a stream. You tell us where the publishing point is going to be, and then we have a captioner connect to our system, and then we can deploy the captions in several different languages. If you want to see an example of that, please go to the URL listed on the slide. This is live with a major news organization using this system with our cloud technology. However, there are times in broadcast when you can't get away from the hardware, right? And the reason is because this hardware encoders are already installed in a broadcast system. So if I need to broadcast to a specific cable or satellite system, I have to connect to that encoder. But that's okay because we can do that, right? So let's say the requirement is for captioning in 3 different languages, and I need to send Spanish to Mexico, Portuguese to a cable system in Brazil. I can do that simultaneously. I can have a real-time remote captioner connect to our cloud system, and then we can output to 3 different IP connections, all with different languages, right? And we're doing that right now live. And the point of this is to help that news organization or sports organization that does live events be able to localize their content in different languages, all in real time. And so even though in this case we're still relying on the hardware, we can basically deploy it using our cloud system because it emulates an encoder on the cloud. And then we can modify all sorts of things like the timing, we can change the language, we can change the way it's being sent. All sorts of things can be customized with this system. Okay. Now, some people ask us about automatic speech recognition. And although that is something we are exploring, the truth of the matter is that a real-time human captioner is really still the standard, right? There are several reasons why. Number one is that we always can control if the speaker of the program, of the live event, is going to have a clear voice, okay? They may not have a good microphone. There's all sorts of variables there. Anything like that is going to affect the quality of automatic speech recognition for live events. So really the answer is to always use a remote real-time human captioner to get the best accuracy that's consistent and is more fail-safe than something that's automated and reliant on the quality of the audio, right? And because of that real-time captioner being present, the translation is also going to have that level of accuracy because the real-time captioner is going to put punctuation, they're going to put keywords spelled correctly. They're going to also add sound cues, right? Speaker labels. All of those things get translated. And that's how we're able to deploy using our cloud system. And of course, there is back to the live streaming. It's now essential and totally cloud-based to be able to deploy the live captions to social media. That's how people consume their video now, right? More and more people are consuming their video and news. You have news agencies having Facebook pages now, right? All of the major news agencies have them. They have YouTube channels. And so when you're doing a live event, it's imperative that live event is captioned. And when you're going to social media, there's really no need to do anything that requires hardware. You can take a system like ours, have the captioner connect to it, and we can deploy the video with the captions to any of these social media platforms in real time, right? No need to like say call the governor and say, hey, Mr. Governor, you're doing a presentation today, you're doing a speech today that is an important emergency speech to talk to your constituents, and oh, by the way, you need a hardware encoder that's not going to fly. There's no time for that, especially in time of emergency, right? So the way to go about it is to have a cloud-based encoder, and have the captioners connect to it. We can then send the captions in real time to social media. And that's basically it. Right now, we'd like to take some time to do a Q&A. So let's take a look at some of the questions here. If you have any questions for us, please go ahead and ask them with the Q&A, and I'll do my best to answer them. Okay. Um, Someone is asking about um, translation, right? And and they're asking if and you can translate the captions in real time to many different languages. And yes, the answer is yes, we can do that, no problem, to several different languages. We can do it all simultaneously, so we're not limited to one language. Um, and this is something that is quite works quite well. I believe that the most mature technology right now in the cloud is machine translation, and leveraging that for live works really well. It's something that anyone can check out. If you'd like to, we can send you a link to that, and you can watch something that's live right now. Um, Someone is asking about uh, getting captions in as an archive. Yeah, that's possible too. So everything that's being captioned right now, for example, for the webinar, you can record that and then view it. And then at the end of this webinar, we can have that as a transcript, and I can get that cleaned up, or I can just send it to the participants and they can see everything that was written up during the live captioning session. And that's really great, especially if you're doing a lot of live events or webinars. Okay, well, I think that covers it all. If you have any more questions, um, oh, I see someone asking about transcription services. The answer is yes. We have same day and next day transcription, which can also be done in a secure facility with humans. And that is something that we absolutely offer. We have a really good workforce of people that are working remotely that can help transcription. And we can format that as broadcast scripts very quickly and customize the output to whatever file format you can. So absolutely, and we do a lot of that every day. Other question is, um, yeah, one thing I like to do while I still have you guys here is I have a poll, and I like to put that up. Okay, what do you use to deliver caption media in post-production? Okay, the first one is on-premise software and hardware, cloud-based software, or a combination of both. Please let us know. Okay, let's take a look at the results. It seems like overwhelmingly, it's like the combination of both, right? And that's very typical. I understand that in the industry, folks have made investments into desktop captioning software, right? And they have to use it. Um, but in certain cases, that is very limiting because it just doesn't scale. But it's definitely looks like on-premise software and hardware is only at around 20%. So it seems like the trend is really going towards having a combination of both or having more cloud infrastructure. Okay, let's do one more poll. What kind of software do you use for caption authoring? Okay, do you use freeware desktop software? Do you use professional desktop or cloud-based? Okie doke. Let's take a look at the results here. It looks like professional desktop overwhelmingly. Okay. Freeware desktop, I've seen some out there, but it seems like no one is using it, at least in our group. And that means that our group is really made to geared for professional broadcast. Only about 14% are using cloud-based, but I believe that's going to change. Okay, as people see that that cloud-based systems are just more cost-effective and more versatile. Okie doke. Um, and one more poll question, and then we can conclude. How do you caption live streaming broadcast? Okay, if you're doing live streaming and broadcast, do you use a closed caption encoder or do you use software-based live caption encoder on the cloud? I think I know what the answer is going to be, but let's just see. Okie doke, let's take a look. So about overwhelmingly, like I predicted, 83% are using installed hardware closed caption encoders. Only about 17% are using software-based live caption encoders. So it's important that that you know that the future, in my opinion, is more like streaming, live streaming, and less live broadcasts, simply because it's just easier to deploy. It's just more cost effective. So as live streaming becomes more the norm, I think people are going to be looking for software-based encoders. That way, they can scale up their work and just get more usage of their live captioning business. One more question I see here, and then with that we can conclude. Do you offer discounts for education organizations? We absolutely do. If you're an education organization, let us know. We can give you special pricing to take advantage of our cloud-based offerings. And also, someone asked if you can translate uh, the captionings for the webinar. And yes, actually, those are being translated right now. They're being translated live. And even if they're not translated live, let's say for whatever reason, after the fact, there's another language you want to translate it to, we can do that after the fact as well. Okie doke. I want to thank everyone for their time. We have recorded this webinar and we will send you a link. We would love for you to share it with your coworkers or anyone that's interested in uh, getting ahead of this situation that we have right now where everyone has to work remotely. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a safe and wonderful day.